I feel very called to become a member of the Catholic Church.
Love the Catholic Church. It's just the best place to be.
From the studios of EWTN, this is Open Line. In North America, call toll-free 1-800-585-9396. That's 1-800-585-9396. Outside North America, call 1-205-271-2985. You can also send an email to openline@ewtn.com.
A tremendous Tuesday to each and every one of you. It is Pro-Life Tuesday on EWTN's Open Line. Our pro-life warrior, Barbara McGuigan, is in the house. If you've got a question or a comment for Barbara, the number's 1-800-585-9396. That's toll-free anywhere in North America. 1-800-585-9396. If you're outside the United States and Canada, we would love to hear from you. Your number is 1-205-271-2985, or you can send us an email, openline@ewtn.com. I'm Jack Williams. The lovely and talented Elena Rodriguez is spinning the dials behind the glass, producing the program, and your call screener is Mr. Matt Gubensky. Our host, as she is every single Tuesday, our own pro-life warrior, Barbara McGuigan. Barbara, how are you?
Too blessed to be stressed, as they say. How about you?
Well, there you go. You know what? If I were any better, I'd be jealous of myself.
That sounds good to me.
Okay, your turn. your turn for a corny. We'll just play tennis with corny sayings for the rest of the hour. Yeah, there you go.
That's all I can think of. Oh goodness, that's cute.
Well, Barbara, as many of our listeners are aware, not only can they hear you every Tuesday on Open Line, but also they can hear you on Saturdays on The Good Fight. And I understand the hills were alive with the sounds of sexual revolution on The Good Fight Saturday.
Oh, Jack, that's a great intro to it. Great segue. I'll tell you, I met another warrior, courageous warrior princess. Her name is Gabrielle Kuby, Kuby. She lives in Germany. She told me she has a view from the Alps from her window, and she knocked my socks off, and the reason being is she wrote what I would like to say is the most comprehensive book about the whole global sexual revolution. It's called The Global Sexual Revolution: Destruction of Freedom in the Name of Freedom. And we've talked about our religious freedoms trying to be, people are trying to strip them away from us. We all know this is a progressive agenda. Well, Gabrielle describes this whole global sexual revolution. She talks about the intellectual trailblazers. She starts from the French Revolution, Jack. She goes all the way to the postmodern gender ideology of one lady by the name of Judith Butler. I thought we had it all dialed in with Margaret Sanger.
The Butler did it.
The Butler did it. I've never heard the name of this lady. It's incredible what this went on actually in 2007, not the French Revolution, but most of the trailblazers. And what they want to do is they want to destroy the inherited value systems of all cultures and religions. They actually wrote all this down. They want to support the revolutionary agenda by the international political elites, totalitarian endeavors as seen in the program set forth. What I want to talk about is the Yogyakarta principles. Yogyakarta is a city in Indonesia. That was all occurring in 2007. They want to impose gender ideology on all societies, to the point of politically motivated changes to the language. The pornography epidemic is part of it, from which children and youth can no longer be protected. And the homosexual movement as the activist engine. They're using that drives this whole revolution. And God rest his soul, Professor Charlie Rice would agree 100% with her. She cites a survey of cases in Europe, which of course I wasn't aware of, and the United States, of government enforcement of the new sexual ideology with fines. We know that with the birthday cakes, and there were a couple other things. Threats and actual imprisonments of Christian holdouts. She says the homosexual rights movement drives the ideology, as I told you, but the problem also presents itself as radical feminism and increasingly gender fluidity and transgenderism. This is all wrapped into it now. And the goal is absolute freedom unfettered by any natural law or moral limitations. I mean, when I was reading this book and then I had her on The Good Fight for 2 hours, I would say their narrow gate, these people, is completely obliterated. They don't have a narrow gate anymore. So the great liberal ideal has shifted from the political arena through the economic to the sexual. The revolutionaries seek not the destruction of feudalism, monarchies, or capitalism, she said, but the tyranny of nature. That's in quotes. The tyranny of nature. They want to strip masculinity and femininity of their normative meaning in the name of freedom and pleasure. Now it appears there is no ideology enforced by the state, sometimes in the beginning. But she said this is a delusion. The new gender identity is firmly established in politics and in universities, but it works behind the scenes. The entire society, believe it or not, is being, quote, gendered. We're being gendered. Now, I learned things from her. I mean, I'm always happy to learn new things, but I learned the term homophobia was coined in the late 1960s by psychoanalyst and homosexual activist George Weinberg to make people who reject homosexuality appear mentally ill. I learned all about the Yoga Karta principles. They call them the YPs, which is a detailed manual for implementing gender ideology worldwide, free choice of gender, sexual orientation, and identity. This is what it's all about. They have 29 principles. They were formulated by a group of renowned human rights experts having no official authorization or legitimation. I said to her, where did these people come from? I mean, suddenly they're setting themselves up as experts. She said they had no official authority. They were not legitimized in any way by any kind of decree or anything like that. They were just putting all this together in Indonesia. They refer to these YPs, as a living document that can expand. There's the fluidity there. And their activist guide is a concrete set of instructions for activists in the LGBTI. They don't say LGBTQ. They say LGBTI. In other countries, I standing for intersex. But when I read this part, in Germany, she said, all political parties other than the Christian Democrats have committed themselves to implementing the Yoga Karta principles. The key to their enforcement is admitting, quote, sexual identity into the Constitution as an anti-discrimination criterion. Other countries that have jumped on the YP bandwagon include Argentina, Brazil, Denmark, the Netherlands, Norway, Sweden, Switzerland, the Czech Republic, and Uruguay. U.S. President, this is in her book, U.S. President Barack Obama and his former Secretary of State, Hillary Clinton, have thrown their weight behind the homosexualization of the culture. The principles demand that all countries of the world take totalitarian measures to change their constitutions, laws, social institutions, education systems, and their citizens' basic attitudes in order to enforce and legally compel acceptance and privileged status for homosexuality and other non-heterosexual identities and behaviors. So this was, I had never heard of this, and this is why a lot of it is done kind of behind the scenes, as she says. And so they talk about sexual orientation and gender identity, this is the way they define it, is a matter of feeling. That is, of a person's arbitrary, purely subjective self-definition what one's gender is. Well, we know it's happening right now. So this requires a person to subscribe to a particular identity group. They believe this bunch, that they would only perpetuate the oppression that the rights are seeking to combat. So they want to abolish binary gender identity. So my light bulb burned brightly at this point, Jack. Why abolish male and female identity? Because anyone who thinks there is a divine purpose for man and woman is a religious fundamentalist. That's what they think. Whoever finds it significant that a body's cells are defined as genetically male or female, or that men's and women's brains show considerable differences, is a biological, sexist fundamentalist and therefore a dangerous enemy of freedom, because he opposes loosening, and this is their quote, the ties, relations, and attachments of the bipolar, hierarchical gender order. So where does this leave us Christians? And then I'll end. We are alone, folks, in the public square. Anyone who believes that sex is a powerful force that must be relegated and linked inherently to the sacrificial institution of marriage and family will now be persecuted and prosecuted as homophobic, which, remember, they think is a mental illness. And our current government is all in on this. Obliterate the family and obliterate the Holy Family. And if you have to force, if a state has to force its definition of freedom by restrictive laws and prison sentences, it's no longer liberal anymore, is it? So Gabriel's bottom line is warning us not just to reject this powerful ideology of pansexualism, which is global sexualism, but also the insidious return of totalitarianism, of the wolves dressed in sheep's clothing, the tyrant masked as a defender of freedom. That's it.
Just getting started on an open line Tuesday. Our pro-life warrior is fired up today. Barbara McGuigan is in the house. If you've got a question or comment for Barbara, the number's 1-800-585-9396. Open line Tuesday with Barbara McGuigan.
From EWTN News Nightly in Washington, D.C., I'm Brian Patrick with your EWTN News Link. Mass graves created by ISIS may contain hundreds of bodies scattered across Iraq and Syria. The Associated Press has documented and mapped 72 such grave sites, and more are expected to be uncovered as the Islamic State group's territory shrinks. Florida's primary today has implications for both House and Senate races. Marco Rubio holds a wide lead over a Republican challenger for his Senate seat. At least 7 of Florida's 27 U.S. House members will be newly elected. Typhoon Lionrock slams into northern Japan, threatening to bring floods to an area still recovering from the 2011 tsunami. It made landfall last night about 310 miles northeast of Tokyo, paralyzing traffic and prompting evacuations. And Italy observes a second day of mourning for the nearly 300 earthquake victims. Construction crews worked all night building a tent complex to host an Italian state funeral in quake-devastated Amatrice.
You can listen to EWTN Radio at any time of day or night. Audio on demand brings all your favorite programs, recently broadcasted shows, prayers, and devotions instantly to you. And it's free. For more, visit EWTNapps.com.
Podcasts of Open Line are available within 24 hours of live broadcast. Go to EWTN.com and click on Multimedia.
Don't wait another minute. Now is the time to make your plans for the 2016 EWTN Family Celebration. September 17th and 18th are the dates, and Birmingham, Alabama is the place for our celebration of the life and legacy of Mother Angelica. This is your chance to meet your favorite Catholic TV and radio hosts. And best of all, it's free. The EWTN Family Celebration, September 17th and 18th in Birmingham, Alabama. For more information, go to EWTN.com/family celebration.
This is Open Line on the EWTN Global Catholic Radio Network. If you have a question or comment, call 1-800-585-9396. Outside North America, call 1-205-271-2985 or send an email to openline@ewtn.com.
EWTN will be your home this weekend for the canonization Mass of Blessed Mother Teresa of Calcutta. That will be a wonderful event. It'll happen in the wee hours of the morning, but we're going to carry it for you live on both EWTN TV and radio. Check EWTN.com for more details. To the phones we go. Our leadoff hitter today is Evan in Indianapolis, Indiana, listening to EWTN on Catholic Radio Indy. Evan, you're on with Barbara McGuigan.
Hi, Evan.
Hello there. I have a question pertaining to natural family planning.
Yes.
Understand that the church is fully in favor of it being used in marriage, but I've also heard things about how to not use it as contracepting. And pertaining to my wife and I, we've been married for 2 years. We don't have any children yet, and I've recently kind of heard that, and I was like, oh my gosh, are we doing something wrong? I just wanted to get the clarification on the right and wrong
Evan,
ways.
what made you think that? What made you think you might be doing something wrong by using natural family planning?
I heard a talk by a Catholic speaker that he spoke. I didn't really understand why, but about how it's not to be used as contraceptive, how it could be used as contraceptive, and that's wrong.
And okay, and why would you think? I mean, that's the question you're asking me, but I'm trying to pull it out of you, good man, because I bet you know. Why do you think it could be? I don't like that term, Catholic contraception, but because it is quite a sacrifice at times.
Right.
NFP
right.
is.
I mean,
but why would it be? Could it be called that, Catholic contraception? Because contraception is a totally different ballgame.
Right. I guess I didn't mean as.
No.
Or
no, that's okay. They call it that. Some people do. Yes.
Right.
But do you have any idea why, even though you asked me the question, do you have like a hint of it, why it would be?
Well, I mean, I guess if people are completely trying not to have children whatsoever, but they're doing it natural family planning, and that's their sole intention, but
here's the key, and you're on the right track. You're on the right track. The key is, do you have an unselfish reason for using natural family planning? That's the bottom line. Are you trying just to say, oh, well, we just got married and we want to wait a couple years before we have kids? It's sad when I hear this because these poor souls don't even know if God is even going to give them a baby. You know what they used to say? I don't know if the stat is the same now, but 50% of couples who adopt children were waiting for the right time to have a child, and they couldn't conceive for one reason or another. So the question is, do you have an unselfish reason? Because sometimes you can just kind of get in a habit of doing things, and like I think it was John Kipley used to always say that after each year of using natural family planning, you have to reevaluate to see if you still have a very, very good reason to use natural family planning. You see what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so that's pretty much it right there. And really, because contraception, you're trying you're against a conception, basically. Okay, natural family planning is, no, you are abstaining from any sexual activity during the fertile period, but you have a good reason for doing so. So I would recommend that you go to onemoresoul.com. Steve Koob, Koob, is the man who runs One More Soul. He used to always sell Contraception Why Not by Dr. Janet Smith. It's a great, they give them out for free. That would be a good thing for you to do. And also read up on it. You can read up on that whole thing too, on that particular website. Okay?
All right. Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. God bless you. Bye-bye now.
Thanks, Evan. Next stop for us, the great state of Louisiana. Elva is listening to EWTN in Louisiana. Elva, you're on with Barbara McGuigan.
Hi, Elva.
Hi, dear. A lady in her grandbaby has a genital of a male and female. I heard you talking about sexuality. They say the parents and just let it grow and see if it wants to be a girl or boy. And I have some neighbors. They are, I guess you say gay, lesbians, whatever. They live together. And they're wonderful people. I love them as any other neighbor. But I read that they can fight this feeling, and I don't know if it's possible.
Well, I just read in Gabriel's book, because it's more than what, equipment you have, right? It's more than that. Your gender is more than that. And I read in her book, I wish I could find the right page, but I don't know. It's a big book, where they were, if twins, this was in the case of twins, were born with defective little boy genitalia. And so the doctors made them both females. And at the time of their birth, I just read this yesterday. And what happened was that they both they wanted to be boys. They wanted to be boys. So even though they did not have the proper, and so a lot of people, this was like some kind of a conclusion that people would do. So, I can't really give you good advice on this because, like I say, I just read something like this yesterday. But possibly, did you say that they had been advised to let it happen to see? I mean, I just really can't.
I read a book where they can have their own choice. They don't have to be a lesbian or a gay or whatever,
Of course, well, sure. That I could see for sure. Yeah, that is just kind of like an abnormality that just sometimes happens, like other abnormalities, But I'll read up on it, Elva. Okay, if you'll be patient with me, I'll read up on it and see what I can come up with a better answer for you. Is that all right?
That's fine. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. God bless you.
You too, dear.
Thank you, Elva. Appreciate the phone call. The number's 1-800-585-9396. Toll free anywhere in North America. 1-800-585-9396. Barbara, you were talking about a lot of the revelations that were articulated in Gabrielle's book, and usually in these situations, the motivation can be found by following the money trail.
You are spot on, Jack. Who funds all this depravity? We know their agenda. We know who the players are, and she really expounds on the players. I mean, I was very much aware of Karl Marx and Friedrich Engels, and very much aware of Margaret Sanger, but she expounds on so many that I had never even heard of, right? But who finances all this? And this is what Gabriel told me on The Good Fight. Funds by the tens and hundreds of millions flow to the LGBTI agenda through official UN and EU sub-organizations and private foundations, Rockefeller Foundation, Ford, Bill and Melinda Gates, etc. She said this is obscured as part of their official budgets. The International Lesbian, Gay, Bisexual, Transgender, and Intersex Association is more than 60% funded by the European Commission, supplemented by contributions from billionaire George Soros and 2 other large donors that she doesn't mention. This commission, the European Commission, also uses tax money to fund projects of the world's 2 largest abortion organizations, Marie Stopes International and, of course, IPPF, International Planned Parenthood Federation. This money, she said, is camouflaged as, quote, sexual and reproductive health, even though the EU's definition of the term explicitly excludes abortion. So there's a bit more to it. I hear our music, so I'll let you go, Jack.
1-800-585-9396 is our toll-free number. Open Line Tuesday with Barbara McGuigan.
Anna Mitchell.
I had this formative experience during one Sunday Mass in the Easter season in 7th grade. During the Gloria, I remember having this sense of being filled. If you can imagine what it must feel like to be a cup being filled with water, that's how it felt. It started at my feet and it moved up my body. And I've come to believe that that was the Holy Spirit. And I can really trace my zeal for the faith back to that moment.
The Sunrise Morning Show, Monday through Friday at 6 a.m. Eastern on EWTN Radio.
60 Seconds with Father Mitch Pacwa.
But so as to emphasize the gratuitous nature of salvation. In other words, what does it mean by it's gratuitous? You can't earn the grace of salvation. Nothing we do deserves salvation. I can't do enough good acts to save myself. That's heresy. The church declared that heresy in the time of Pelagius, back in the 4th century. And we don't believe it now. It is gratuitous because it's given by God's grace, freely, undeservedly. You don't deserve salvation. You don't deserve the forgiveness of sins. But you get it anyway. And this is a great, great gift for us. So we want to emphasize the gratuitous nature of salvation.
The people you know and trust are on EWTN.
If you're currently an EWTN media missionary or just interested in becoming one, we've got some great news. EWTN Media Missionaries has a new and improved website. EWTNmissionaries.com, designed with you in mind. Our new site is loaded with great features and it's easy to navigate. There are so many different ways that you can help EWTN. Join us in sharing the eternal word with the world. Visit EWTNmissionaries.com today.
This is Open Line on the EWTN Global Catholic Radio Network. If you have a question or comment, call 1-800-585-9396. Outside North America, call 1-205-271-2985 or send an email to openline@ewtn.com.
It's Tuesday night. That means the Mother Angelica Live Classics tonight. And tonight, Mother talks about body and soul in heaven. And that's something that we speculate about frequently in Catholic circles. And Mother Angelica will shine a little light on that tonight, 8 Eastern on EWTN radio and television. Back to the phones we go. North of the border, Emmanuel is in Canada listening to EWTN radio. Emmanuel, you're on with Barbara McGuigan.
Hi, Emmanuel.
Barbara, how are you?
Great, thank you.
Barbara, so here's my question. Basically, my wife had a gifted sum of money that was given to her that was placed in sort of mutual fund investments. Something happened with there. We had to trade it over to a cousin who works in the stock market. The money was placed in the stock market, not necessarily my area of expertise, but once it happened, I asked her a couple questions, asked which companies, and then I immediately mentioned, I wanted to sort of stick away from the pharmaceutical companies because of my obvious pro-life views, and our cousin, which is the investor, understood that. He goes, okay, no problem. And now I continue. And then he mentioned and trying to invest into another company. He mentioned Johnson & Johnson. And then I said, well, you know what, before you do that, let me look into it. I want to see this company's views and values. So then I started investigating all other companies too. And I mean, I could have went on forever. And basically, I feel like I could find something against every company. Yeah. So, except I'm wondering, should we really get into details and check all the details of the companies and where they've supported and where they, took stances on, for example, gay marriage and stuff like that, and avoid investing in these companies?
I would recommend that. And it shows your heart, the state of your heart, which is a beautiful thing because, we can't be with the church in body but not in heart. And so if we are going to help, make money, to me it's dirty money when you're making it off of these kind of people that are financing what all of this depravity is the only thing I can call it. I mean, George Soros, my goodness, he just gave, when the Pope was here, Pope Francis, he gave $650,000, almost $1 million, not quite, but almost, so that this $650,000, he gave it to 2 community organizing groups who had inside access to the Vatican and to the major media, and their goal was nothing short of ensuring that our Pope did not mention abortion or man-woman marriage while he was in the United States. And they were also attributed, these groups also take credit for getting Vatican spokesmen to deny that Kim Davis meet privately with the Pope. Remember, she did, and then they said, no, she didn't. He never met with her while he was in Washington, D.C. But we know it to be true now. We know it to be true. So this man, and of course he showers money on Planned Parenthood. David Daleiden just came out with some words about how there was a leaked grant report from the Open Societies Foundation, which seems to show Planned Parenthood and its allies in a panicked effort to raise millions of dollars to counter a series of investigative videos alleging that, those are David's videos, of course, alleging the abortion provider broke the law. And where did that come from? Okay, the Open Societies Foundation is one of George Soros's foundation groups. And but David's point in talking about this just came out yesterday, shows that Planned Parenthood and their allies realize that the baby body parts issue is the biggest crisis, the biggest scandal, and the worst revelations that they, Planned Parenthood, have ever faced in their 100-year existence. So that's George Soros again. We also know how he funded. Jack, do you remember how much he funded Obama's first campaign? I know he was a big funder, but
a lot.
A lot, no doubt. And
tens of millions, if I'm not mistaken.
Did you? Yes, I wouldn't be surprised at all. And then, our Democratic candidate right now, it would not surprise me at all if she was not funded by George Soros, too. So, you see, I guess the importance of this is to know what's going on. To know what's going on. And you hear me always say, resist, resist, resist. It's the family that is going to save the day. It's mothers and fathers who are having children that will save the day ultimately. But it can end up in totalitarianism. We've all seen shades of that. Gabriel calls it soft totalitarianism. But I'll tell you, it can get much worse. It can get much worse if good people do nothing. And if good people vote, we can vote this sort of thing in and out all the time, So that's another important thing to remember, too. So I'm proud of you, Emmanuel, for looking into that. I really and truly am.
But Barbara, it's just my question is then more in detail, like where to draw the line. For example, let's say Apple takes a certain stance or Nike takes a certain stance. Should I, at that point, should we be saying, we shouldn't be buying Apple products and we should stay away from Nike? And I also check my car company, like Lexus. I saw there was a rating system. They donated money to something, whatever. And I'm like, so at that point, should I almost change my car? Because at that point, I feel like it's never going to end. So I don't know.
Well, you already have your car, but you know what? It's true. I mean,
at some point, you just have to make a prudential judgment for yourself, and we live in a culture where it is becoming increasingly more difficult to function in society without somehow, some way, supporting a morally objectionable entity.
But you know what? I used to talk about American Express because I've used them for many, many years, that they withdrew any kind of financing to this whole pro-death culture, which I was happy to see. I guess they make enough money to begin with. But Jack, do you remember where we used to go to find, I think Judy Brown on American Life League?
American Life League had a list that will just depress you and make you feel like you need to crawl under a rock to survive.
A rock and die.
But exactly and we can, that's definitely a problem. But Emmanuel, here's one thing, and not just you, Emmanuel, but anybody who is of a mind to want to make a difference.
Yep.
It's not enough to stay away from those things that you find morally objectionable. You have to tell those people that you're staying away from them.
Yes.
And you have to tell them why.
And you have to tell them why. And they listen. Target already has lost $20 million. That just came out, about a week and a half ago, because of their transgender stance on their restrooms. So, of course, they say they're going to turn things around now, but I think they want to put extra locks on the doors. I mean...
Well, and we can make a difference if we let our choices be known and why we're doing it. We can make a difference. I would refer people to an organization run out of the state of Mississippi by a woman named Monica Cole called 1 Million Moms, where she focuses primarily on advertising on network television, where she will send out alerts to objectionable programming, and she has a template that all you have to do is click, and you can generate an email from your email address to the sponsors of these objectionable programs. It's just a wonderful thing, and they have had sponsorships pulled and network programming pulled just from their efforts on that. So it's not an impossible battle, but it's not an easy one.
And if we Christians, Catholics alone can swing any vote if they vote with the mind of Christ. Okay, they can swing any vote, and so. But then you add in all the evangelicals and the Christians from a lot of other denominations. Not all, certainly, but a lot of the other denominations are pro-life. If we could all just band together on this one thing, because if life is not considered valuable in the womb, it won't be considered valuable anywhere else. You get that, Emmanuel, I can tell. God bless you, good man. Thank you so much for your call.
Thanks so much, Emmanuel. We've still got plenty of time for your phone calls. Our toll-free number is 1-800-585-9396. That's toll-free anywhere in North America. 1-800-585-9396. Open Line Tuesday with our pro-life warrior, Barbara McGuigan.
Hello, friends. Father Wade Menezes here of the Fathers of Mercy for EWTN Radio with another Mercy Moment for the extraordinary Jubilee Year of Mercy called for by Pope Francis. What are some concrete actions, both spiritual and temporal, that we can carry out during this Jubilee year to really enter into the Holy Year in a more profound way? For answers to this question, look no further than the 28-page papal bull written by Pope Francis officially calling for the Jubilee Year of Mercy. Its title, Misericordia Votus, Latin for the face of mercy. In this document, Pope Francis provides us with a blueprint of spiritual and temporal activities to help us really flesh out this Jubilee year. He proposes such concrete actions as forgiving those who have hurt you or have done you wrong, forgiving debts owed to you, and returning collateral whenever possible, going to confession regularly and faithfully, at least once a month or even weekly, but without scrupulosity, and reading and meditating on the sacred scriptures, especially the Gospel of Luke, which is often referred to as the Gospel of Mercy. Pope Francis also suggests going on a pilgrimage, either locally, nationally, or internationally, to a cathedral, basilica, church, or shrine that has been designated an official Jubilee Year of Mercy site, and striving for the plenary indulgence associated with such a pilgrimage. How about performing one or more of the corporal and spiritual works of mercy each day, and sharing with others the good news of God's mercy worked in your own life through your kind words and good deeds? And what about praying the Stations of the Cross at least weekly during the Jubilee year, and especially on Fridays at 3 p.m., the hour of great mercy, if your schedule permits it? And daily praying the Divine Mercy Chaplet as it was given by our Lord to St. Faustina, the Divine Mercy seer who revealed it to the world. These are just a few suggestions, friends, as to how you can enter more deeply into this wonderful Jubilee Year of Mercy. To obtain your copy of the papal bull Misericordia Votus, simply go to the Vatican's website at www.vatican.va. And that's another Mercy Moment. I'm Father Wade Menezes of the Fathers of Mercy. Be sure to visit fathersofmercy.com, and God bless you.
Tomorrow on EWTN Radio's Open Line, Father Mitch Pacwa takes your calls about the Bible, the Church, and the writings of the Pope. 3 p.m. Eastern on EWTN Radio.
This is Janet Benkovic, host of Women of Grace.
Hello, this is Cardinal Donald Wuerl of the Archdiocese of Washington.
This is Gloria Purvis, host of Morning Glory. Thanks for listening to the EWTN Global Catholic Radio Network.
This is Open Line on the EWTN Global Catholic Radio Network. If you have a question or comment, call 1-800-585-9396. Outside North America, call 1-205-271-2985 or send an email to openline@ewtn.com.
As soon as we're finished here, be sure to check out Cresta in the Afternoon, which will be heard on many of these EWTN-affiliated radio stations. And today it's Direct to My Desk. If you've never heard Al do one of these Direct to His Desk shows, they are fascinating. He takes questions and comments from folks that have written in specific things that he has gleaned, and just I think some of the best shows he does, these direct to the desk pieces. That's at 4 Eastern, 2 hours of Cresta in the Afternoon, and at 6 Eastern, 2 hours of Q&A open forum on Catholic Answers Live. Tim Staples in hour number 1, and Father Joseph Fessio in hour number 2, 6 Eastern, right here on EWTN Radio. Next up is Joanna in Riverside, California, listening to EWTN Radio in Riverside. Joanna, you're on with Barbara McGuigan.
Hi, Joanna.
Good morning. Hi, Barbara. It's an honor to talk to you.
Praise God. It's good to talk to you. What can I do for you?
First of all, I want to thank you for bringing Miss Gabrielle Kirby on your show on Saturday. I was able to listen to the whole interview.
Great.
And it put together bits and pieces that I had heard throughout the years and never really could make sense out of them. I was able to order her book at Barnes & Noble.
Okay.
And you can pull up the YP principles on Google, and it's in Wikipedia.
Okay.
And it gives
Makes
you an
sense.
entire scope of this. And it also specifically identifies the Southern Poverty Law Center that identifies the Catholic family and a human institute as a hate site, and it isn't. It isn't.
My goodness. Okay. Isn't that sad?
What I'm interested in is what can we actively do to combat this, besides praying the Rosary and praying to St. Joseph and St. Michael. What now can we do now that this information is out and that we have a physical evidence about it?
You know, this book, her book, The Global Sexual Revolution, Destruction of Freedom in the Name of Freedom. What a great title. I told her so. It's being printed now. Hong Kong wants it. The Chinese want it. And they are printing it as well. It's all, I don't know how many different languages, many different languages it has been printed in. What a scholarly work. But what I would say to do is in your own sphere of influence, Joanna, spread the word. Because we're dealing with this big time in this country. I mean, just last week, I think it was, last Friday, the Democratic nominee came out with a Women's Equality Day video. Have you seen that video?
No, but I can imagine.
Well, she celebrates and hails abortion, transgenderism, and homosexuality, but what really jarred my apple butter is that she lumped the suffragettes with the women's liberation movement in the 60s and the 70s. And I'm sure she'd lump it with the new wave feminism that they call themselves now, the new wave feminists. But the suffragettes, just to put this on the record, fought for the right to vote. Okay, that's honorable. That was good. But they were very pro-life. They were very pro-family. And this bunch now just wants to be able to kill unborn children throughout any stage of development. On demand, no excuses are necessary. They want the womb to be a free fire zone. And you know what? I bet if you could add them all up and count them all up, there would be many more pro-life people in this country who knew what was going on. So education. You know, I mean, you know the operative word in real estate is what? Location?
Location, yes, of course.
Location, right. Okay, if you want people to grow in faith, to grow in grace, especially the young kids, my goodness, who are going to be assaulted with all this, they're being assaulted now. You have to preach the word. Put on the mind of Christ and go for it. Evangelize all you can, because, like I say, it's the family that will save this culture. Oh, it'll go someday. I mean, I'm not worried about my lifetime. I mean, I'd love to see it turn around in my lifetime, but I don't know if that will happen. But I think of my 15 grandbabies and counting, and I want to just cry to think if they're going to be up against a totalitarian regime that is based on sexuality. I mean, Charlie Rice said the same thing. When a culture loses its faith, he said, it loses its mind. And this is what we're seeing now. Absolute chaos and lack of reason. So keep up the good fight. I'm glad you listened. And boy, I'll tell you, it was a wonderful thing for me to be able to have her on. She was in Brussels, Jack. Did you know she was all the way in Brussels?
I did not.
She was in Brussels. I didn't know if we would get a good connection or not. And Matt Gabinski is my favorite in the world. And it was the best connection in the world. It sounded like you right now, like she was sitting right in my office. I couldn't believe it.
Did you have Jean-Claude Van Damme for the second half of the program?
No, she was on the full 2 hours. Yeah.
Thanks so much, Joanna, for the phone call. We appreciate it. 1-800-585-9396 is our toll-free number. Next stop, the nation's capital. Kevin is listening to EWTN on Guadalupe Radio in Washington, D.C. Kevin, you're on with Barbara McGuigan.
Hey, Kevin. Thanks for waiting, good man.
No problem, Barbara. Yeah, Kirby's better than Van Damme, so I'm glad you kept Kirby the whole time. Barbara, I guess with the canonization going on this weekend of the future Saint Teresa of Calcutta,
right?
I think back to 90, I guess it was 93, 94, when she spoke at a prayer breakfast, and she spoke at the United Nations, and she did not flinch, where she sort of squared her shoulders and eyeballed a group full of pro-abortion, let's say, dignitaries, and spoke truth. And I guess the analogy I would draw today, after hearing your lead-in with Kirby, and I plan on buying the book,
it's Kuby, just to set it straight. Kuby, K-U-B-Y. Yes, sorry.
Okay, Thank you. I miss the fact that we don't, even Mother Angelica or Mother Teresa, it seems to me that maybe sort of like a blanket of, call it cowardice or call it, I don't know what you want to call it, but it seems to me that now it seems so hard for priests, I'll just say it, I'll be candid, priests, to really get engaged in what really needs to be said. And I wonder, I guess the question for you is this. It's certainly not a mortal sin. I don't think it's a venial sin to be able to go up to our priests, maybe that aren't, let's just say, engaged in what this book is about. Say, hey, listen, Father, I love you, but we really need more out of you, because it's quickly getting out of control. And I wonder what your take is on. You said we need to evangelize, and you're right. We need to get in the street. But if our bishops and our priests aren't showing courage, then how are we going to show courage in the streets? I guess what I'm saying is we really need some walking orders, and I don't hear enough in my eyes.
We have to help. I don't think it's a sin at all, Kevin. I mean, you're doing this out of love. It's certainly not going to make you popular. Father Marx used to always say, if you speak the truth, you're not going to be the most popular person in the room. But what have you got to lose? Nothing. And you've got everything to gain. Everything to gain. I mean, St. John the Baptist, we just celebrated, a couple days ago. He ended up with his head on a plate for speaking the truth. And but I think we can't attribute any laxity among our popes. I mean, Pope John Paul, Pope Benedict, and even Pope Francis has talked about gender theory and how it's just madness. Cardinal Burke just came out with the whole thing on it. So I think our priests are so busy and they have so many things on their plate all the time. And I think we need to inform them about these things. I never knew about the Yogyakarta principles, the YPs. I had never heard that in my life. I didn't even know George Weinberg was the one who made up the homophobia term. There were lots of things in that book that I did not know, and I've been steeped in this stuff for 30 years, over 30 years. So I'm just saying, I think that we need to just help them along and give them some information. Buy the book for your priest. It's a powerful book. I told her it was the most comprehensive book I've ever read on the sexual revolution, and I've read more than a few on feminism and stuff too. So we got to stay in this. We got to stay in this because our current government is really in this. And so we have to be the resistance. Over and over again, come up with the truth and love.
We'll head now to Nebraska. Teresa's listening to EWTN on Spirit Catholic Radio in the great state of Nebraska. Teresa, you're on with Barbara McGuigan.
Oh, hi, Teresa. Hello. I am so glad to finally get to talk to you.
Oh, me too. I'm glad to talk to you.
Yeah, my question is, what is the title of Gabriel's book again? I started listening to you way in the beginning, and it's such a long title.
Okay, yes, it kind of is, but it's really easy once you listen to it. The Global Sexual Revolution. If that's enough. I mean, if you just want to put that in, the Global Sexual Revolution, that's fine. And she said she'd come back on with me all the way from Brussels.
I missed that one. I like to listen to you on Tuesday and, of course, on Saturdays, too. But thank you so much for being so knowledgeable.
Well, I'm really not, but you just have to study. You just inform yourself with this stuff. I'm really not. But
we can get this book at Barnes & Noble.
Yes, you can. You can get it on Amazon. She suggested Amazon, and I said, well, wouldn't we have it in? I always want to pitch our Catholic bookstores first, right?
Oh, yes.
But she didn't know. How would she know it being in Brussels? If it's in our, it should be in religious catalog for sure. I really will try to see if I can get that into religious catalog because it is. And when you get to the sex education part, that part makes me cry because I've been knee deep in that for a long time, and just what they're teaching these kids, in Europe now. I mean, I don't know if it's here yet. I haven't heard some of the things, but anyway, can't even go there. But thank you, dear heart, for calling the show. I appreciate it.
God bless you. And Barbara, thanks so much for all of your time and for everything you do for the pro-life movement and for Holy Mother Church.
Listen here. Right back at you, Jack. My goodness, we're all in this together.
On behalf of our host, Barbara McGuigan, our producer, Elena Rodriguez, call screener Matt Gubensky, I'm Jack Williams. Thanking you so much for taking some time out of your Tuesday. Back at it tomorrow with Father Mitch. Until then, God bless.